Hi guys, welcome to a Daily Change of Mind. How y'all doing? I'm Stephen Clemens. Today is February 1st, 2019. As you can see, if you've watched any of these videos, I'm in a different place right now. You're joining me at my house. And thought I'd bring you the word from here. So today we're going to go back to the He is Risen series. And I'm going to pick it up where I left off last time. Last time we were looking at the charges, or the trial of Jesus Christ, and in that message we ended at what the charges were that were being brought against Jesus, as a backdrop to going into 12 reasons why the trial was illegal. And I'm going to read it to you. I'm going to pick up where I left off. It says, after the arrest of Jesus, a former high priest named Annas examined Jesus first. Next, the mob brought Jesus to the high priest's palace, where Caiaphas, the high priest, and the Sanhedrin were gathered. Matthew 26, verse 57 through 58. Here, numerous false witnesses came before the Sanhedrin to give testimony against Jesus. Eventually, Christ was condemned to death, apparently on the charge of blasphemy. You find that in verse 65 through 66 in Matthew 26. The next morning, the Sanhedrin formally condemned Jesus in an attempt to make the previous evening's procedures legal. A multitude of people then led Jesus to Pilate, Luke 23:1, and pronounced different charges, not blasphemy, what they brought against Jesus the night before, but different charges when Jesus was brought to Pilate, saying, we have found this fellow perverting the nation and forbidding to give tribute to Caesar, saying that he himself is Christ, a king. Luke 23 verse 2. Notice they did not accuse Christ of blasphemy in front of Pilate. Instead, they charged him with treason against the Roman Empire. If you continue on reading in that same chapter, we'll see that Pilate initially desired to free Jesus, but the people continued to push for his death, saying he stirs up or incites the people, teaching throughout all Jewry, beginning from Galilee to this place. And when Pilate heard that Jesus was from Galilee, he sent Jesus and them, the high priest and all them, to Herod, since Galilee was under the jurisdiction of Herod. You see that in verse 6 through 7. And Herod doesn't find anything at fault with Jesus, so they are sent back to Pilate once again. And Pilate says, he tries to release Jesus again, and as he found no reason to condemn him to death, saying, quote, you have brought this man unto me as one that perverts the people, and behold, I, having examined him before you, have found no fault in this man, touching those things whereof you accuse him. No, nor yet Herod, for I sent you to him, and lo, nothing worthy of death is done unto him. I will therefore chastise him and release him. But the crowd cried with a loud voice, saying, crucify him, in verse 21 of the same chapter in Luke 23. Pilate a third time responded to the multitude, why? What evil hath he done? I have found no cause of death in him. I will therefore chastise him and let him go. That's in verse 22. And they responded again, crucify him, crucify him. And if you're familiar with the story, Pilate gives in to their demands. And you need to keep in mind that this trial, from the time of his arrest to the time of his crucifixion, was roughly 9 hours. He was roughly arrested around midnight, in which between then and the time he was crucified, which is roughly around 9 in the morning, during that period of time, 9 hours, he was seized, tried, condemned, and crucified. So with that, we're going to look at, with that as the backdrop, we're going to look at 6 reasons of why the trial was illegal. You can write these down as I go through them. Reason number 1. Recall that Judas was bribed to betray Jesus in the absence of the crowds who favored him, including the rest of the disciples. The plan was to seize Jesus in the dark of night, sentence him just before sunrise, to make everything appear legal, and transport him to Pilate, stir up a mob of people to condemn him, and crucify him in the morning before those who supported him were aware. Who constituted the crowd of people who arrested Jesus? The answer leads to the first blunder in Jesus' arrest, trial, and conviction. Reason number 1, Jesus was arrested illegally. Any trial may be dismissed as a mistrial or illegal if there is prejudice against the individual being tried on the part of those participating. The accused must be given full recourse of law to be able to sufficiently present his side. Jesus, however, was both arrested and tried by those prejudiced against him and was not allowed opportunity to present his case. Further, his judges were the same individuals who bribed Judas. Surely one cannot say that those people were impartial. In addition, Jesus was arrested secretly at night and was not formally charged of any offense. Judas simply pointed out Jesus, came up to him and gave him a kiss, and a crowd arrested him. There was no legal or formal charge for the basis for his arrest. In the book Criminal Jurisprudence of the Ancient Hebrews, Samuel Mendelssohn states, the testimony of an accomplice, in this case, Judas, is not permissible by rabbinic law, and no man's life, liberty, or reputation can be endangered by the malice of the one who has confessed himself a criminal. End of quote. Since Judas accepted a bribe from a judge, certainly Judas would be considered a criminal. And since Jesus' judges, who would also be on the panel of judges, bribed Judas, they would be considered criminals as well. This alone should have led to a mistrial, since the reason was he was arrested illegally with no formal charge for his arrest, and those judges who were on the panel to condemn him were guilty in and of themselves for bribery as well, bribing Judas, which makes them accomplices. Reason number 2, Jesus was examined by Annas in a secret night proceeding. You see that in John 18, verse 12 through 14 and 19 through 23. According to the Talmud, the Sanhedrin is forbidden from convening between the time of the evening and the morning sacrifice. Their day starts at sundown, roughly around 6 o'clock, or when the stars start to appear in the sky, till 6 in the morning roughly is when the morning started. In the book Jesus Before the Sanhedrin, M.M. Lehman states that no session, including a preliminary examination, which is what Annas did, of the court could take place before the offering of the morning sacrifice. Furthermore, quote, an accused man was never subjected to private or secret examination, as stated in the Institutions de Moy by J. Salvador. That was reason number 2. Jesus was examined by Annas in the secret, with a preliminary hearing in the secret of night. Reason number 3. The indictment against Jesus was false. In the book, Life and Times of Jesus the Messiah, Alfred Edersheim states that the Sanhedrin did not and could not originate charges. But as we saw, the Sanhedrin did so in the case against Jesus. Alexander Taylor Hines in The Trial of Jesus Christ reveals that, quote, until they, the witnesses, spoke in the public assembly, the prisoner was scarcely or even never an accused man. When they spoke, the witnesses, the evidence of two agreed together, it formed a legal charge, libel or indictment, as well as the evidence for its truth. End of quote. In a correctly conducted procedure, the evidence of the leading witnesses constituted the charge. But with Jesus, no witnesses, and therefore no charges, were presented at the outset of the proceedings. Those in opposition to Jesus, including those who would be in the court, simply arrested him. They then needed to find witnesses, and false ones at that. They had to go find witnesses. You can see that in Matthew 26. You read 57 through 58 is when Jesus was brought to Caiaphas. And it says in verse 59, now the chief priests, and this is, by the way, after Annas' preliminary hearing, now he's being brought to Caiaphas, in the midst of Caiaphas, the elders, and the high priest that were all assembled together, and all the council, and they sought false witnesses against Jesus to put him to death, but found none. Yea, though many false witnesses came. So they had to go seek out false witnesses. And those witnesses didn't even agree together with each other, which would also make it a mistrial. So reason number 3 was the indictment against Jesus was false. Reason number 4, the Sanhedrin court illegally held its trial before sunrise. Anna's preliminary examination of Jesus resulted in no evidence, but instead of dismissing the case, the Sanhedrin proceeded to hold an illegal court. The preliminary examination that Annas did was also illegal. He didn't find anything worthy to condemn Jesus, so he went, instead of dropping it, he sent Jesus to Caiaphas, in which they held an illegal assembly together against their own laws in the Talmud. Mendelssohn reveals why the court was illegal, saying, quote, criminal cases can be acted upon by various courts during the daytime only, and by the lesser Sanhedrins from the close of the morning sacrifice till noon, and by the great Sanhedrin till evening. And the reason why that is because the lesser Sanhedrins would sit on it and hear the case and give their judgment so that they would not be influenced by the elder or the great Sanhedrin and what they would say the outcome should be. The Jewish Mishnah states, quote, let a capital offense be tried during the day, but suspended at night. Moses Maimonides explains why the trials are to be held during the daylight, saying, quote, the reasons why the trial of a capital offense could not be held at night is because the examination of such a charge is like the diagnosing of a wound. In either case, a more thorough and searching examination can be made by daylight, especially in a case of capital offense. Convicting of someone of a crime punishable by death was serious business. It required those deciding the fate of the accused to be at their best mental state. which is hardly true in the early hours of the morning. Especially these guys, they've been up all night doing a preliminary hearing and then a illegal court hearing. So 4 was the Sanhedrin court illegally held its trial before sunrise. Reason number 5. The Sanhedrin illegally convened to try a capital offense on a day before an annual Sabbath. The Mishnah reveals why, saying, quote, "They shall not judge on the eve of the Sabbath, nor on any festival." In the martyrdom of Jesus, Isaac Wise, a Jewish rabbi, provides decisive evidence, saying, quote, "No court of justice in Israel was permitted to hold sessions on the Sabbath or any of the 7 biblical holy days. In cases of capital crime, no trial could be commenced on Friday or the day previous to a holy day, because it was not lawful either to adjourn such cases longer than overnight, or such cases meaning capital cases, capital offense cases, is either to adjourn such cases longer than overnight or to continue them on a Sabbath or holy day. Jesus, however, was arrested on Passover evening and held for a preliminary hearing and an illegal court hearing in the midst of the council, elders, chief priests, and scribes, and high priests. Jesus, however, was arrested on Passover evening, which is the day before the first day of unleavened bread, an annual holy day. Reason number 6. The trial concluded in one day. Again, reading from the Mishnah, we learn, quote, "A criminal case resulting in the verdict of not guilty of the accused may terminate the same day on which the trial began. But if a sentence of death is to be pronounced, it cannot be concluded before the following day." Forcing a trial to last longer than one day allows time for witnesses in support of the accused to come forth. Of course, Jesus' court did not want any such witnesses to manifest themselves, so they ended it quickly. And that's all I'm going through today is those 6. I believe just based upon those 6, we could stop right there, because I believe it's clear as day that Jesus' trial should have been a mistrial. It was illegal from the get-go because of the bribery that happened. That included both the judges and the one who pointed Jesus out in the first place. So I think this is fascinating. It's kind of interesting that these people thought that they were putting a stop to something according to their own power and ability that they could by being deceivers. But God used those deceivers who did this stuff illegally to fulfill His purposes and desires for the salvation of the world. I think that's fascinating. And like I said before, this is I believe it's the greatest trial in all of human history. And I believe it's clear as day from the first 6 reasons that Jesus was innocent of all charges brought against Him. So, that's my message today. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I'll post it on Facebook, YouTube. Please like it, comment, share it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like my Facebook page, Daily Change of Mind, so that anytime I post anything, you can get updates on that and view this stuff yourself. So that's my message. Let's keep our eyes focused on Christ and trusting in Him, for He is in control. He is in control. Let's pray for each other. If you have any prayer requests, you can email me. My email address, I believe, is on the Facebook page as well as on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, A Daily Change of Mind, as well as A Daily Change of Mind on Facebook. You can email me. I can keep them private, or I can let the world know so that other people can pray for you. So let's pray together. Let's keep our eyes focused on Jesus, and I'll talk to y'all later. Have a good weekend.